Hello, this is Al Fogel, and I'm going to read a long poem by Charles Bukowski, one of my all-time favorites. It's the title poem from The Days Run Away, like wild horses over the hills. The phone rings, and it is usually the woman with the sexy voice from the phone company, telling me to please pay my phone bill. But this time a voice says quietly, "You son of a bitch." And it's the editor of a dozen magazines, everything from religious pamphlets to do-it-yourself abortions. And he asks, "Why haven't you called?" And I say, we don't get along." "Catalysis," he says. "Dig?" "Dig," I say. And then he tells me he has seen me in issue number 5 of Crab Legs and Mule Tears, and that I am getting better. And I tell him that I am a slow starter, and being only 42, I still stand a chance to spread sand in Abdullah's garden. And he says, "Come on over, I want you to meet a friend." And I tell him I will give him a ring after the track. It is Saturday and hot, and the faces of greed rushing past, pinched and dried and impossible, want to make me kneel amongst the lilies and pray. But instead, I go to a bar where I can get a good vodka and orange for 70 cents. And people keep talking to me. It's one big lonely hearts club. People lonely for a voice and $1,000,000, and not getting much of either. And by the 9th race, I am $100 in the hole. And a big colored guy walks up to me and spreads the tickets of the last winner in his hand like violin music. And I say, "Fine, fine." And he says, "I'm with a couple of old broads, and now they are trying to find me, and I'm ducking out. I'm going to lock the doors and get drunk." "Fine," I say, and he walks off. And I keep wondering why so many colored people talk to me. And then I remembered I was in a bar once, and a big black guy swore me into something called the Muslims. I had to repeat a lot of fancy words, and we drank all night. But I thought he was kidding. I'm not out to destroy all the white race, only a small part of it, myself. "Who you like?" another guy asks me, and I say, "The three horse," and he says, "The three is out," and walks off, and that is all I want to hear. And I put 20 to win on the 3, get a screwdriver, and walk down to the last turn, where if you've been around long enough, you can pick out the winner before the stretch drive begins. And I'm there when the 3 drives past, a length and a half behind the 6. The others are out, and it looks close. Both are running hard, without signs of tiring. But I have to close the gap, and I look up at the board and see that the 6 is 25 to 1, and I am only 7 to 1. And with a little luck I might make it. And I did, by 3/4 of a length, and the frogs of my mind lined up and jumped over death for a while, and I walked over and got my $166. I was in the tub with a beer when the phone rang. "Bastard, where are you?" It was the editor. "See you in 30 minutes, I told him. "I don't want any stuff out of you or I'll lay you out," he tells me. "Fine, fine," I say. 30 minutes then," which gives me time for a couple more beers. The place is in the back in South Hollywood, a small cell with a water heater in the bathroom. A rack of books take up half the room. Much Huxley, Atlas, Lawrence, not of Arabia, and a lot of tombs and vessels of people halfway in the playground between poetry and the novel, and lacking either the motivation or the discipline to write straight philosophy. And he had a woman in there in the last peach fuzz of her youth, pale orange, a little spiritless, but quiet, which was good. And he said, "Baby, get the man a beer." And I threw him my latest book, which I inscribed, "To a Connoisseur of Virginia in Verse." And he said, "You know, you're getting fat, bastard, but you're looking better than the last time I saw you." "Was that in Paris?" I asked. "Pasadena, California," he answered. "Faulkner's dead now, too," I said. "How do you like the bitch?" he asked. "Look at her." I looked at her and thanked her for the beer. "Fair stands the fields of France," I said. "Listen, I need 150, he told me. "Jesus," I answered. "I was going to ask you for the same thing. I hear Harry is back with his old lady." "Yeah, looking for a job, painting furniture, babysitting. He was even a bartender one night." "Harry a bartender?" "Just for 3 hours. Then he said he got tired." "Tired?" "Tired is the word he used." "I need 150. "Who the hell doesn't?" "Faulkner doesn't," he said. I wonder what he mixed in his drinks. I've got to slow down. The bitch had some poems she wrote, and I read them, and they were not bad, considering that she was built for other things. And the rest of the night was fairly dull. No fist fights, too old to tango, tiger asleep in the shade. And I promised I would write an essay on the meaning of modern poetry, which he promised to print unseen, and which I knew I would never write. The night was full of promises, an old tiger and a peach. I drove home down the side streets, swinging wide around the police station, smoking king-sized and humming parts of Carmen, because it was very dark, and Bizet drove better than Ludwig, who had his mind on more important things. I parked out in front, and no sooner did I get the car door open than the roomie downstairs said, "Hey, Ace, how about a cold one?" I took a beer out of the bag and slipped it in through the screen. "Listen, I need $1, he said. "Now ain't that a bitch? I was just going to ask you for the same thing." "You're in a bad mood," he said. "Sure," I said. "Haven't you heard? Faulkner's dead." "Faulkner? Wasn't he a bull-ring jock? Pomona Fairgrounds? Rudosio Caliente? You knew the kid?" "I knew the kid," I said, and then walked on upstairs. The rest of the night was no account, as the Archies say, and there were a couple of numbers I could dial, 4 or 5 numbers. Some black, some white, some old, some young. But I kept thinking of white hospitals and palm trees in the shade, and it was quiet. At last it was quiet. And there are times when you have to come back and look around. There are times of Ludwig. There are times of walls. There are times of thinking of Ernest and that shotgun raised to his head. There are times for thinking of dead loves, dead flowers, of all the dead people who give you a name from Florida to Del Mar, California. All the sadness like a parade of gentle fools gone, waters running in sinks, stockings washed, gowns worn, thrown away. The ugly duckling world quietly slipping away from me, and myself slipping away, an old tiger sick of the battle. The next morning I awakened by a knock on the door, so I ignored it. I never answer the door. I don't want to see anybody. But it kept up with a kind of gentle persistence, so I got up and put on my old yellow robe, dead voices from bedrooms, and opened the door. "I am here to help the handicapped people," she said. Do come in," I said. She was a young girl, 19, 20, 21, her eyes as innocent as the map of Texas spread over the clouds. And she walked across the rug and sat down, and I went into the kitchen and took the cap off of 2 beers. My goldfish swam like crazy. I walked out with the beers. I said, "Love must be always, because stones gone flat with leaning take ships to sea, take cats and dogs and everything." She laughed, and the day began without error. Charles Bukowski, The Days Run Away Like Wild Horses Over the Hills. Read by Fogel. Thank you.